Okay. Well, thank you for staying to have a great conversation. And thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I like to do these fireside chats a little bit differently than what everyone else typically does. So instead of doing a profile of the brand, I want you guys to give a chance to connect. Our executive on stage. And so I really want to start the conversation with doing a little of acting to know you. And let's start with where you're from originally.
I am from San Francisco area, San Francisco, the city, my Bay Area gigs originally. And I've also lived in New Mexico and upstate so all three of those. But I've been in Angelina for many years. So.
As a former Angelina, right?
Venetian, from down there.
Okay. So when you were growing up in the Bay Area, do you remember what your very first job was?
Well, I actually didn't live in the Bay Area anymore when I was growing up. I moved during middle school. So my very first job, I had two, beyond babysitter, but my first summer I was eligible to work, I worked at a convent. Yes, serving. It was like a retreat house, so I served meals. I was like a waitress at a convent, and also a day camp for my kindergarten kids. So in the day I was with kindergarten kids, and at night I was with Dominican sisters serving meals.
Is it polarizing, or is it actually listening?
Yeah. There were similarities for sure.
I bet. So what did you learn in that first job experience that you take with you today?
Patience. On both of those.
For sure. And then when you went off to college, where'd you go to school?
I went to Ithaca College in upstate New York. Park School of Communication. Wait, someone might go to Ithaca?
Somebody's excited. Yeah.
Nice. I was just back last week. I did an alumni thing. First time since graduation. Go Bombers. Yeah.
And you studied?
What's that?
What did you study?
I studied communications, but I was a television radio major and a fine art minor, and I spent a lot of time studying classes. Yeah.
So not necessarily marketing, but kind of close.
Well, I always knew I wanted to be in entertainment, and that I would move to LA, and I wanted to work in film and television, and I thought I wanted to be in producing. And I started in TV, so I thought I wanted to work in television. And once I actually started working in television, I realized that wasn't for me. And that was before limited series that are almost all at this point. So I did study it. I never took one marketing class in school. And it's funny, when I was talking to students last week, people were asking, like, oh, I don't know how to get into marketing, if I'm a film major, like, that doesn't have anything to do with what actually is. Like, figuring out what you don't want to do as much as what you do, and yes.
Yeah, I always tell my team I'm an art school dropout who, fell into advertising.
Right.
It works.
Yeah. My sister went to art school, and my dad has a roofing company, and when everybody was walking across the stage, it was like, there's my next employee, everyone in art school.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us about the job that you have now at Lionsgate. You have an awesome title, but likely nobody knows what it is.
Yeah. So I oversee the marketing for limited releases and specialty releases. What that encompasses is across the board. It doesn't matter the distribution that I do. Meaning, it could be web theatrical, it could be direct to digital, we can flip to streaming. It's really about figuring out what the content is and where it goes. But my specialty is the smaller budgets. My team has done very well at doing a lot with a little less. So our P&As range from a couple thousand, $100,000 to 15 million. So a little less than the big, games and sort of things.
Right. One of the things I think is really interesting in a pre-conversation, the industry and all the trades are talking a lot about fragmentation of media, what's streaming, what's going to direct to home video, what's happening in this world. And I think one of the things we talked about was the fact that you have influence in that. Tell us a little bit about, other than the monetary, like that's obvious, like what goes into making that decision?
So that's the content part of my job for sure. Is a lot of our films early on were all acquisitions, and then it was deciding where they belong, where the audiences watching these. And after COVID, especially during COVID, consumer behavior just drastically changed. What you're going to go see in the movie theater is different than what you want to watch at home, what you want to stream versus what you want to pay money for. So it's either a script stage that we're thinking about what it looks like when we see the movie, where it belongs, and who the audience is, or an acquisition stage, like, okay, I have a film coming out here at South by that we're putting out on Wednesday, Tuesday. I wish you all the best, and the idea is to make some noise around it and potentially sell it over here. Or if that doesn't happen or it's not the right price, we figure out where the audience is and what it is. So that's the content part of the job. And then it's like the life cycle of marketing after that. Whether, and if we're going direct to a streamer, it's still provided as content. We sell it as a full package.
Right, they do that.
Yeah, so like we'll provide the trailer and all of that, poster and everything, and that becomes a package that we give to them. So we're still doing the marketing in creative. Whereas like a wide theatrical will do super tons.
I find it really interesting when you talk about the demographics that fit into those channels, because for me personally, I don't ever imagine using this to watch a fun movie unless it's on a plane, which we kind of don't have a choice these days. But do you have any data points that help you understand how to attack that? Or?
I mean, it's always changing, right? And I think it's part, like, in genre-wise, and we have comps, so we look at things. Sometimes we take bigger bets on things that we think will not typically be theatrical viewers. So, we know habits mostly, women are streaming overall, like older women, dramas do better there than they would go into a movie theater. It's just like not something you have to go to fast. The bigger films, we try to definitely event times to make sure that people are going to theaters. Our digital, it's primarily men who are buying digital, and women waiting until it's on the streamers. So we kind of get that, but we call my group like Team Artisan, and it's really artistic, like looking at a single film and deciding what the best thing for that is with audience and obviously the financial aspect.
Right. Yeah, ultimately, you have to get butts and seats or screens to make.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is most interesting about your bucket of films, other than the fact that they're scrappy, right? You gotta do a lot with a little, is that you're helping creative producers tell stories that may not make it out there. So, I mean, you also have horror movies, but tell us a little bit about that process and really figuring out, you take something like the film that you released, Scramble, which I would have never expected to make it into theaters, or at least in my city.
800 theaters.
So 800 theaters.
It was a very small indie film that launched here at South by last year.
So nice props for South by. Came last year. We'll maybe give a little bit of backstory on what it is, and then talk about its release.
Yeah, I mean, it's something I'm really proud of, and it was something that we had to convince a lot of people to take a swing at, because it wasn't necessarily going to be profitable, but I felt like it was an important story to tell, and so did a lot of women at the company. It's written and directed and about and stars Leah McKendrick, who's a first-time filmmaker, and it's about her journey of freezing her eggs, of like all of the people around her were getting married and having kids, and she felt this pressure. And it's really about like women's choices and freedom and timing and all of these different things. And it's hard to get those movies made, and it's hard to get people to watch them. And so we took a swing and we convinced people to put it in theaters, and now it's on digital, so you can buy it. But yeah, it's so fun. And hands down, my favorite part of the job is working with early filmmakers and trying to shepherd that way through.
Yeah, as somebody who went through the idea process, my wife, it's not an easy one. So seeing that on a big screen is pretty cool.
It's cool. A lot of people felt seen. I mean, I have done press with her, and I've done things where people came up and talked to us, and she really spoke to people, and it was really an honor to be part of that scene. And then my own fertility issue. Like, it's just not something. It's so fun, right? It's done in this humorous way, like to me.
Well, my wife has. Yeah, my wife has a one-woman show that she wants to put out. The whole thing is like crazy.
Yeah.
So, in the first part of your job being, hey, what types of films should be made? How should we get them out there? On the flip side of that, marketing. You have a film that's here, it's out by this year. Talk just a little bit about the bean scrapping, what that looks like in 2024.
Sure. We have two, actually. So I also specialty encompasses our inspirational films, too, which also can have a faith overlay. So sometimes I go from like horror to faith audiences to actually part of it's moving. We have a film, Tommy Dorfman, she's a trans director, first time filmmaker, who was in 13 Reasons Why. That's her photo. That's how I know her. She directed a film called I Wish You All the Best about a non-binary who gets kicked out of their house for being non-binary, and they come out to their parents who are religious. So it's so good, and it's indie, and it's cool.
And you can see it on Tuesday.
Yeah, it's playing on Tuesday. I don't remember what time, but sometime there at Southland. So we're excited to launch that. And, I think on this stage, there's been a lot of talk about different voices, and so that's what a new one too. It's cool that Lionsgate has been taking lots of time to get that out there.
And it's a very different side of the story in terms of faith-based programming like Ordinary Angels.
Yeah, Ordinary Angels was my last one out 2 Fridays ago with Hilary Swank and Alan Richson, who's Reacher, anybody's Reacher fans, and that was it. It's a drama, but it had a faith overlay just because it had an inspirational message. And then the next one we have out is Unsung Hero, which there's this Sunday service here at Southside that is about faith. I actually don't have a lot of details except for that we are doing a panel for that film and a performance by For King and Country is the band that is inspired by that film.
Yeah, so that was your ad for Southland. Check out
those are all my
Lionsgate products.
Yeah, post-BI event stuff.
So with the recent release, it did really well. It was in the box office. How do you measure success on these types of films? Like when I was selling advertising for studios back many, many years ago, we looked at Box Office Mojo every week. We're like, hey, what's happening? What's the release? Should we ask them for more money or do we run in money? So what does that look like now?
I mean, I can't speak for all of Lionsgate. I can speak for the films that I work on, and which are more specialty in nature than like Hunger Games, which that was something that everybody's looking at Box Office for, and we were all really proud of. But it's not always about that. It's about the entire life cycle of the film, and that's what we're thinking of when we buy it or we greenlight it or any of that, because it's not just the theater numbers necessarily. Sometimes not at all. It's about the downstream and full life cycle, right? Like where it goes to for a Pay-1 window, which just means like a Hulu or Netflix or any of those streamers, and then regular TV. And it's just like this whole cycle, not to mention catalog too. Like when we get it in our library, that's meaningful because that happens a lot because we license. Being Dirty Dancing is like a cash cow for the company, and it's like that hasn't been out in a year, but it's like licensed or crazy. So I think there's all of these things that go into it, and that's why we have a big specialty releasing because of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't love Dirty Dancing? Fantastic summer movie in a year. So what have you been most proud of in the work that you've done? Let's look at the last 6 months and from on a marketing side. Because we talked a little bit about that too, right? If you live in Los Angeles and you drive down the street, you see billboards everywhere, whether they're awards or not. But then we have digital, right? Your big homepage splash and people. There's like, what's the thing you're excited about or you've been really proud about?
Continually proud of stuff in the studio. I think looking forward, I think Scramble was one that I was really proud of just because of what it stood for more than its success. And coming up, Ordinary just too, I really loved the movie, and I also thought it had a good message in terms of what it meant. And I loved our marketing campaign. I was really proud of it. Looking forward, we have Whiteford coming out at the end of summer. That I'm really looking forward to. There's so many cool things.
Yeah, I remember the one thing that stood out to me as a digital person is like we talked about as a studio and with your agency partners thinking about media and thinking about like strategies as to what's exciting. And at any point targeting digital isn't as sexy sometimes. So you mentioned having interest in digital or events and experiential.
Yeah.
I'm going to expand on that.
Yeah, and one of the projects that I didn't just mention, but it's coming out, we're doing a reimagine of The Strangers film from 2008, but we did 3 films, so like the story continues. But that one is going to be really fun. We've already started it. You may see some of our strangers walking around Austin right now because part of the campaign is they're everywhere. But that one that horror opens you up to so many possibilities of just like cool interactive ideas and things that are new. And then that one comes out May 17th, and for sure that is going to be mainly digital, mainly fun, mainly really cool things. Our digital team just got here from LA, and they're going to be,
yeah,
they have their hands
digital. I love that. I think the other thing we talked a little bit about in the pre-call is just demographics, right? And like the different audiences that you might need to speak to, and the different insights that may come from, like even multicultural marketing is a key component of like horror films, as an example. So is there anything you can share about audience that you guys are adapting within your marketing program?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just not forgetting about a broad audience and different audiences that may typically be like what used to be traditional film marketing. Like it's definitely something we all look at every single film release. But yeah, and more like we have definitely over-indexed across the board in every different background. So that's something that becomes a big weight into where we put our product. And then, we definitely invest in films too, audiences, and then we kind of like that.
So, in the spirit of the get to know you part of things,
sure.
What are some of the things you're looking forward to learning while you're here for a few days? And what is it that you want to expand your perspective?
I'd say, so I did a couple roundtables yesterday that were really cool. And I think connecting specifically about like women in leadership has been really very cool. I loved the panel this morning that people were talking about that. I just think as new generations come up and leadership styles change, expectations change, and boundaries change, like it's been a really cool conversation here at Innovators, especially meeting those people. So kind of learning about different people's techniques has been really fascinating. And then a lot of people have approached me with different methods of reaching people. And that's been really cool. I just think that there's so many innovative new technologies that we may just not even know about or aren't yet. And like people are trying to launch that at South by. That's what's so cool at South by.
Yeah, when the pavilion opens tomorrow, like the creative pavilion, I'm super excited about being able to go in there.
Same.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. So as we wind down before we open it up to questions, I like to ask my own, like, Bren, quick fire or quick questions?
Bring it. And we did not prepare this, so whatever.
Don't share that. Never share rapid fire.
Yeah.
So you read a lot of scripts.
Yeah.
Lot of content. Comfy chair or bed?
Bed.
How do you stay awake?
I don't always. If I'm being honest.
I call books my adult melatonin.
Yeah. Well, I do have a couch in my office that I sit on if it's like not. So I guess that's a comfy chair too.
Okay, so comfy chair,
Yeah,
but
for
definitely a
airplanes.
bed.
Airplanes are the best for scripts.
Okay.
And then you just pretend the internet doesn't work for anybody trying to reach you. Yeah.
Digital team, you didn't hear that. You
Yeah.
did not hear that. Okay, so I presume you're looking at screening rooms and special stuff most of the time. If you go to the movies,
Yeah.
recliner chair or better screen?
Okay, so I do both. I go for the LA People's Room. I go to the Playa Vista, Cinemark, and Lacey stuff on the big screen. And if available, I buy the recliner chair, and I usually press it. So.
That's the problem with the
Yeah.
chair.
But usually, if I'm going to the movies, it's because I have a 12-year-old in there, so we can do it together. So.
Okay, you probably shouldn't answer this one, but I'll be like, Dolby Vision or IMAX?
IMAX.
Yeah, I didn't see that, otherwise I would have ditched that question, but it worked in your favor.
Yeah.
I'm also like a big person. I have to be in the middle. Do you care if you sit on that?
Oh, I don't.
I'll see. I'm the dumb one that has to get the most.
Yeah.
Okay, winding it down, because I'm sure I was. But what is the hidden gem film that's totally underrated that everyone should see?
Oh. Hidden gem film that's underrated that everyone should see. Well, can we come back to that? There's so many. Great.
All right, what do you
Wait,
think?
can I just say scrambled? Because, like, no one's seen that
You
yet.
should. You
And
actually
it's,
should.
like, well, it's high up there in Rotten Tomatoes, so I don't remember what it is.
It's in the 90s. So
It's high, and it's so good, and it's not something that, like, people are rushing out to see.
Oh, and it's funny. So just because it's
And
about
it's
freezing
funny.
eggs doesn't mean it's like.
Yeah, it's really not about that. It's about so much more.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That was the kind of the end of my question. So hopefully some of you have questions. And we'll pass it to you guys. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi there. With so many movies releasing across so many studios, and coming off the writer's strike and everything that's happening, how do you learn from not only your successful releases, but the ones that didn't certainly shine as well as you hoped? My perception is that the studio's like, okay, flush it and move on. Is that true? How do you guys look back?
I don't find that true. I think because, like what I was saying earlier, because it's not necessarily about the box office with every single film, it may be adjusting a certain film to have a different distribution model, and like looking at it and saying, okay, this last year these are not popping and this fits into that category or it's a third bomb. Maybe we relook at the distribution strategy and decide, or we look at how much we're putting in P&A and decide if maybe it's a shift or maybe the audience we needed to adjust to a different audience. But we certainly look at competitors, and then it's also dating. Like it's a game of Tetris and trying to figure out the right date for things. So something that may have worked wildly well in January is not going to work wildly well in July, and it's like mixing that up and seeing what's working across the board. But it's, especially with the strikes and COVID, it's been a game of Tetris and trying to figure that out.
That actually brought up one more question I have for you. Is like, you talked about the blockbusters, like the formula.
Yeah.
So there's seemingly in the last 5 years a formula for movies. Do you have any point of view around like the superhero movie versus like what that next thing that moviegoers really wants to do?
Well, I mean, you've seen, and I came from Disney. My background before Lionsgate was Disney, so I'm used to like the big tentpole stuff as well. And it was during the Marvel era and Lucas and before that, so I'm kind of used to it across the board. And I still think the big things are fun. Like but I do think that there is an authenticity coming back with films. I think Barbie just like defied. Listen, they put a ton of money into that movie, but also it defied the odds, and like there was such an authentic voice that came through, which you thought was going to be a bubblegum movie with so much depth and spirit. And I think that we're in an age that people really appreciate that. And I have to say, in the conversations here, it has really been about like using your authentic voice. And that sounds a little cheesy, but I think it's true. And I think it's like, I think that is the stage we're moving into. And I think the early Marvel movies, right? A lot of that was like that voice, like Black Panther, like that was like a movie, like people were so moved
It was a
by
movement
that.
because it was something people haven't had to celebrate. So
Yeah, and so those movies, they weren't just superhero movies, there was a voice, and then, you know, maybe it just like became a little more saturated and maybe it didn't feel as authentic. I don't know, I haven't seen a lot of them past that, but knowing what box office is looking at, I don't think that's true. So I think maybe that's like the tone that we're moving into. And I know our movies that are succeeding have that as well.
I think that's what's
Oh wait,
cool
we
about
go back to the underrated, the movies that's
Yes, please.
Are you there? God, it's to be Margaret.
Oh,
97% on Rotten Tomatoes, super critically acclaimed, and it's one of the ones that like women didn't show up for as much as they should have, and it is so good. Like I highly recommend it.
add it to your queue.
Yeah.
In your notes. Check it out.
So good.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thank you.